Good morning, students. So we were discussing about how can we take the fibers in the last class we were discussing about rearing of silk. So and we reached that that is silk worms, they will produce that cocoon. So inside that cocoon pupa will be there. So up to that much we reached, Now the next stage is how can we take these silk fibers from the cocoon? How can we take the silk fibers from the cocoon? So that is the next. So there are different steps are there in order to obtain these silk fibers from the cocoon. So let us see what are the different steps in order to get these silk fibers from the cocoon, and the various steps. The first one is that is boiling. So we are converting the cocoon into silk. How can we convert cocoon into silk from cocoon? So the first step is boiling. So the cocoon is boiled in hot water, or it is treated in oven. In order to kill the pupa inside the cocoon. So why we are killing the pupa inside the cocoon? Because if we do not kill the pupa and allow it to grow, then this pupa will break the cocoon, and it may reduce the size of the fiber, and it may also affect the quality of the fiber. That is why we are killing the pupa inside the cocoon by putting in hot water or by treating with the oven. Okay, that is why we are doing the boiling. Okay, so that is the first step. First step is that we are putting the cocoon inside the hot water, or we are treating in we are treating it in oven. We are placing in oven. So that what happens? The pupa is inside the cocoon will die, and we will get what? The cocoon. We will get the cocoon. If we are allowing the pupa to grow, it will break the cocoon. So we will get the broken piece of cocoon that may affect the quality of the fiber, and also it will reduce the size of the fiber. Okay, that is why we are doing this process, that is boiling. And the second step is reeling. So we get the cocoon. So what is reeling? Reeling is the process of it is the process of taking out of fibers from the cocoon. That is called reeling. And in order to do this reeling, there are special machines are there for in order to separate the fibers from the cocoon. Why? Because this fiber is too fine. That is, silk fiber is too fine and delicate to handle. So what do you mean delicate? We have studied what is delicate. Delicate internal organs. Delicate means it is too soft. and it may break easily. So that is why special machines are there for doing this reeling. So reeling is the process of taking out silk fibers from the cocoon. That is called reeling. And then so many such fibers, because a group of fibers are collected. A group of fibers are collected to make a strong fiber, to make a strong thread or strong fiber, and that fiber, that is what is reeling? Reeling is the process of that is taking out fibers from the cocoon. So, and this since these fibers, silk fibers, are too fine, too soft, so a group of such fibers are we can collect them and make them into a strong fiber, and that fiber is called raw silk. That is called raw silk. You know, a group of such fibers are collected and it forms a strong fiber, strong thread like fiber, that is called raw silk. That is raw silk. And the broken or the damaged cocoons, that is the silk fibers, or the inferior quality fibers which are produced from the damaged or broken cocoons, we can make them into another, that is called spun silk. That is called spun silk. So spun silk is obtained, it is obtained from the damaged cocoons, and raw silk, that is this fine quality good fibers or quality fibers they are grouped, they are make them into group, and then we can make them into a strong fiber, that is called raw silk. So that is called raw silk. And third step is after reeling, it is throwing. Next is throwing. That is, the raw silk is twisted together to make thrown silk, So that is this raw silk obtained after reeling is twisted together to make thrown silk, and this process is called throwing. And then this thrown silk, why we are doing this throwing, because in order to because sometimes the fibers may split into individual fibers. So in order to avoid this splitting, we are doing this throwing process. It is the that is raw silk is twisted together to make thrown silk. Then that is the third stage, and the fourth stage is this thrown silk. This thrown silk is it is dyed. That is called a dyeing. Dyeing means, what is dyeing? Dye, we are giving color. We are giving color to this thrown silk in order to get different colored silk fibers. So after dyeing, the silk fibers are make them into different colors, and these silk fibers are spun into silk yarn. They spun into silk yarn, and this yarn is woven into silk cloth. So this is the process. These are the different processes involved to convert silk into from cocoon into silk. First step is boiling. We know why we are doing boiling, in order to kill the pupa. Wow. If we are allowing to grow the pupa inside the cocoon, it will break the cocoon, and we will get the less sized or small sized silk, so it will affect the quality of the fiber. So that is why we are killing the pupa inside the cocoon by putting in hot water or by treating in oven. Okay. And the next step is that reeling. Reeling is the process of taking out of silk fibers from the cocoon. That is called reeling, and for this reeling we are using special machines, because in order to separate these fibers from the cocoon, since it is delicate, since it is soft, we have to do it carefully, otherwise it will break. So for that, these delicate or soft fibers are they grouped to make a strong fiber, that is called raw silk. And the inferior quality fibers or the broken cocoons, from the broken cocoons we are separating the fibers. Those fibers are we can make them into spun silk, that is called spun silk. So these spun silks are obtained from the inferior quality silk, that is, or broken pieces, or damaged cocoons. From the damaged cocoons we can make them into spun silk. And this raw silk, next is the raw silk. Sometimes it may split into individual fibers. So, in order to avoid this process, we are doing one process that is called throwing. So, in throwing what we are doing, this raw silk is twisted together to make thrown silk. So, this thrown silk, that process is called throwing. So, and why we are doing this throwing? In order to avoid the splitting of raw silk or fibers into individual fibers. And then after throwing, we are doing one process that is called dyeing. Dyeing means we are giving color to the fibers. We are giving color to the fibers to make a beautiful color, different colored fibers. And these fibers, after dyeing, so we will get different colored fibers. These fibers are spun into silk yarn. Silk yarn, you know what is yarn? Silk yarn. So, this silk yarn, they woven into a silk cloth by the weavers. Weavers will do, they will make the silk yarn into silk cloth. Okay. So, these are the various steps involved in the conversion of cocoon into silk. Okay. We can represent these processes by means of a flow chart. I will how can we convert silk fibers or from the cocoon to silk cloth? So, that we can represent by means of a flow chart. So, here the first step is what? This is the female silk moth. The female silk moth, they lays eggs. That is in a farm, in silk farm. In silk farm, female silk moth, they lays eggs, they lays eggs, isn't it? And these eggs, they lays eggs on the leaves of mulberry leaves, mulberry leaves. So, and these eggs, they what do? They undergo, that is hatching, isn't it? Hatching. That is, we are using incubators for hatching. Incubators for hatching. Then after hatching, what we get? We get what? That is caterpillar or silkworm. Caterpillar or silkworm. Silkworms. Caterpillar or silkworms we get. And these silkworms or caterpillar, they feed on mulberry leaves, isn't it? Feed on mulberry leaves. So, after feeding, they grow in bigger size, and then what happens? They forms what? They forms what? Cocoons, isn't it? They forms cocoons. They forms cocoons. So, inside the cocoon, what is that? Pupa is there, no? So, they form cocoons, and these cocoons, what we do? We are heating or boiling. We are boiling or treated with the oven, isn't it? Or treated in oven. Treated in oven. Then what next step? So, when they are treated in oven, what happens? When they are treated in oven, pupa inside the cocoon dies, isn't it? Pupa dies, that is present in the cocoon. Pupa inside the cocoon dies. Then after that we are doing a process, that is how we have to separate the fibers from the cocoon, that is called reeling. So reeling, after reeling we get what? Silk fibers, isn't it? We get silk fibers. That silk fibers, it is reeled properly, reeling to get what? Raw silk, isn't it? We get raw silks. We get raw silk. And here, these silk fibers, there are inferior qualities there. So this inferior quality we can make them into what? Spun silk, isn't it? From this we can make spun silk, isn't it? This raw silk, what we do? We do one process that is called throwing. That is called, so by throwing we get what? Thrown silk. We get thrown silk. And this thrown silk, what we do? It that is they dyeing, that is giving color. We get what? Colored silk, isn't it? We get colored silk, and this colored silk we are weavers, they weaving into silk cloth. So this is the flow chart. How can we get the silk fiber or silk cloth from the cocoon, or from the even from the eggs, how we get the silk cloth. So this is by looking into this flow chart we will come to know what are the steps involved in the conversion of the eggs, that is silk moth, they lays eggs, then after hatching in incubator we get caterpillar or silkworms, and which feed on mulberry leaves, we get cocoon, and this cocoon is treated on heating. Why we are heating this cocoon? In order to kill the pupa, isn't it? So after that we get what? Cocoon. That pupa will die inside the cocoon and only cocoon remains, and this cocoon we can convert into silk fibers by the process of reeling, and then after reeling we get silk, raw silk, and the inferior quality we can make them into spun silk, and this raw silk undergo another process that is called throwing. So by throwing we get thrown silk, and this thrown silk on dyeing we get what? Colored silk, which on weaving into what? Silk cloth. So these are the various steps involved in the conversion of silk from eggs to silk silk fiber or silk cloth. Okay. Then next then what are the different varieties of natural silks? What are the different varieties of natural silk? We know we are getting silk from where? From the cocoons, isn't it? So we have studied the various processes that is involved in the conversion of the cocoon into silk cloth, isn't it? And these fibers, the fibers which are obtained from the cocoon, that will depend on the that is they are different. There are varieties of silk cocoons are the different colored or different quality cocoons are there. Cocoons are means there are different kinds of silk moths are there. Different moths are there. They are different from one another in their appearance. Everything it is different. And so the silk fibers which are obtained from this type of silk moths are differ. They differ in their texture. They differ in their texture. That is their coarse, soft, and coarse, soft, and they are shiny. All they are different, because the silk that is obtained from different silk moths are different in their coarse, soft, shiny. Some are coarse means they are hard, or it is somewhat hard. Some are very soft. It is not that much hard, because they are differ, and then they are shiny or lustrous. They are shiny. So that depends on the type of silk moth. Different types of silk moth. Now let us see one by one which are the different types of silk. First one is mulberry. The first one is mulberry. First one is mulberry silk moth. It is the most common silk moth or silk worm, and the majority of the silk production is, or the bulk of the silk production in our country, or not in our country, in the world, is mainly that is from the mulberry silk moth. They feed on mulberry leaves, so that is mulberry silk moth. And this silk moth, the fibers obtained from this mulberry silk moth, that is soft, then it is shiny, that is lustrous, and elastic. They soft, shiny, and elastic. They soft, shiny, and elastic. And this mulberry silk moth, they are we can make them into different colored silks. We can make them into different colored silks by dyeing. So that is first one, that is mulberry silk moth. And the mulberry silk moth, the fiber that is obtained from the mulberry silk moth is mulberry silk. Okay. And the second type is that Sar Silk Moth. Sar Silk Moth. This Sar Silk Moth, they produce Sar silk, and these moth or these silk worms, they feed on arjun leaves. You can, if you are you can search in Google that what is arjun leaves. If you are not familiar with that arjun leaves, that is arjun leaves. That is Sar Silk Moth. They feed on arjun leaves, and they from that we get Sar silk. Then the third one is airy silk moth. Airy silk moth, they feed on castor leaves. They feed on castor leaves, and they forms brick red colored silk. Brick red colored silks. That is called airy silk. They produce airy silk, that is brick red in color, and they feed on, that is this airy silk moth, they feed on castor leaves. Okay. And the fourth one is and the last one is Muga silk. Muga silk moth. Muga silk moth, they feed on som leaves. See, all these leaves, if you are not familiar, you can search in Google what is that leaves. So, they feed on som leaves, and then this type of silk moth, they produces lustrous, they produces, that is shiny, lustrous golden yellow silk, that is called Muga silk, golden yellow Muga silk. So, Muga silk moth, they feed on som leaves, and then they produce lustrous golden yellow Muga silk. So, these are the different varieties of silks, and this Muga silk is found in Assam and over everywhere in the world. I think it is seen. So, it is these are the different varieties of natural silk, that is mulberry silk moth, they produce mulberry silk, and they feed mulberry leaves, and it is soft, shiny and elastic in nature, and we can make them into, after dyeing we can make them into different colored silk fibers. Okay. And then Tassar silk moth, they feed on arjun leaves, and they produce Tassar silk. And then Eri silk moth, they feed on castor leaves, and it is they produce brick red silk, that is called Eri silk. And Muga silk moth, they produce Muga silk, it is lustrous golden yellow in color, and they feed on som leaves. So, these are the varieties of natural silk. So, with this we have finished this chapter. I hope that everyone understood all these things. So, you have to read it very well, and then so we have finished the first chapter. Hope you all understood. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.